Castle Grayskull needs protecting, so they bring in the Shield. Here's your look at the Mattel Masters of the WWE Universe, Seth Rollins. WWE and Masters of the Universe combine into a powerful force. The Masters of the WWE Universe channel the power with this highly posable action figure, a WWE superstar, as a Masters of the Universe character. Before we get things started, the first thing we're going to want to do is measure off to the top of Seth Rollins' head, and I apologize well in advance, Mr. Rollins, that you were left to the end. It wasn't so much the fact that I didn't think you were an interesting enough figure, simply just that the other ones before you were a lot more interesting. I'm so sorry. Like I said, we're going to take the tape measure right to the very top of his head. He doesn't believe me. The figure of Seth Rollins from the Masters of the WWE Universe stands 5.9 inches in height. Let's quickly switch that over to centimeters, revealing that the figure is 15.1 centimeters tall. And to show you the progress we've made, let's bring in the other Masters of the WWE Universe, starting first with Mr. T. He was, after all, the first figure that we had a look at. Then we had a look to Snake Country, checking out, of course, Jake the Snake Roberts. And lastly, let's just move Mr. T back just a little bit to bring in Bray Wyatt. This makes up this entire wave of 4 figures, each one different from one another, and even though they do share a lot of similar molds and similar limbs, just the few things that they swap in and out of each of the characters, you get brand new different designs with each one of their releases. The figure doesn't come with really much in the way of accessories, a mini comic and a flaming sword. Talk more about the flaming sword in a second, but first, pulling it away and disappearing for a second, here's what you know my feelings of these by now, the mini comics that come included with these figures. Mini being really the operative word, because as you can see, it's only just a single page. That's all that's going on. The outside, it seems like Seth Rollins is having to deal with the evil forces of Triple H, which apparently, from what I've heard behind the scenes, isn't that far off. Ooh, that cuts deep. But yeah, as you can see, the inside panel, there's Seth Rollins with a very quick read-up, says Slayer of Kings and Beasts. And then on this side, it seems like Seth Rollins is having to fight everybody himself. You can see down below, there's Bray Wyatt. I guess that is his final person he has to do battle with. But the fact that you only have like one page really is hard to kind of piece together what's going on. So in order to do that, I'm going to grab from the side here all the other comics that we've had a look at from the other 3 figures. I'm going to assume that Mr. T was here first. Not only as the figure that we first looked at, but the first part of the storytelling. Mr. T is forging out something that we don't know what it is just yet. He leaves the room to grab a soda. I'm just adding that part to the story. Comes back to discover that somebody has stolen his prized whatever that is, and they've fled away. Then we're going to go to the Jake the Snake comic. And in this case, Jake the Snake has pinned Macho Man. I'm assuming he's tied up at the moment. He can't come to the phone. Triple H has won the title. Jake the Snake has turned face, literally, and has left, I guess, Triple H just as a statue or a full-out skull, and has walked away with the belt. This is interesting, isn't it? Then we're going to go to Jake the Snake bringing back the title with skull face. Bray Wyatt comes, claims the title, and then that gives us then full circle to the end of the story, where I'm assuming it's this part right here. Is that right? I'm probably missing something somewhere. Although Triple H is still here, it doesn't look like he's been defeated. Macho Man seems confused. Maybe he's not the only one. Maybe I'm also a bit confused. Anyways, those are the 4 comics. Very disappointing if you ask me. Let's move on to the territory of the Flaming Sword. You know, I do think I probably put a couple of those comics backwards. But anyways, let's have a look at the Flaming Sword. Do we really care? I hope nobody really cares. The Flaming Sword, as you can see, comes included with Seth Rollins as a translucent orange plastic. It's not translucent to the point where I can move my hand behind it and you can see through the plastic, but it's a nice looking sword. I don't know if it's actually come with any other figure other than Seth. I got a feel that they probably have used this before. Just I'm drawing a blank as to what character would have actually had this before. If you do know, let me know down below in the comments section. You can take the sword in a case like this and actually put it in either one of his hands, because both hands are gripping here. If you want to decide to put it on this side, you can do that. Whoops, and not drop it through in the process. Let's grab that and pick that back up. There we go. Put the sword back into his hand. The sword seems like it wants to be slipping out of his hand. There we go. Just make sure it's in there enough. I guess one of the big problems is when you look at the handle is super thick. That's the reason I'm going to go with why he kept dropping the sword. Or you can also go ahead, take the sword and put it on this side as well. And that just snaps into place. I will say that despite the fact that the handle seems so thick, it seems to fit a better job on this side right here. I'm not really sure the reasoning why, because the hands seem exactly the same. But at least he comes with a flame sword for slaying kings and beasts and people that run corporations and their sons. Anyways, those are the accessories that come included with Seth Rollins. Getting a closer look at the figure here. Some of the things on here are brand new, at least that I can see. Specifically, I'm looking at the boots right now. The boots are missing the laces that would have been included on the Mr. T, the Bray Wyatt, and the Jake the Snake seem to all have laces on their boots. This one doesn't have it. He does still have the knee pads, like Mr. T had. Primarily, all the plastic used down below is black, but it does have some nice panel lining done. It's not quite even in gold. It's almost got a slight tint of silver to it. And of course, he's got his Seth Rollins logo there on the side. It's only on the one knee. We get a little bit further up here. I want to look first at his head sculpt. That is so Seth Rollins. Just a big, arrogant smile on his face. Sculpted in beard looks nice. Looks pretty good. And of course, he's got the slicked back jet black hairstyle. It does, of course, limit a little bit when it comes to moving the figure back and forth. A lot of times what ends up happening is the hair gets caught underneath this torso piece, which I do want to spend some time talking about in a second. I think I will say, despite Seth Rollins getting his hair all hung up here, and being the last figure that we looked at from this wave, he actually seems to be the closest in proximity to his real-life counterpart. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about this torso piece here. You probably heard something falling in the background here because I had a figure I wanted to bring in and display him with. This particular torso piece seems to be similar to the one that we got with Zodak. And again, I'll bring the figure in so you guys can see. It's not quite identical, but it's close enough. Where one thing that differs between the two is when you spin the figures around to the back, instead of having the exposed back hair, which I really think he has to shave, he has just the straps on the back of his torso armor. Though when you're looking here, Seth Rollins, he has not only ammunition running along the bottom of his belt there, but he also has what seems to be almost like an armored backpack. I suppose you could technically detach this. It would just involve you removing it from the sides and taking the whole back piece off. Not really sure why you would want to necessarily. But the rather interesting thing about Seth Rollins' piece is, if you've heard any of the reviews that I've done lately with the Master Universe Origins figures, I keep dropping the name Wondar. Wondar was a Wonder Bread exclusive He-Man figure, I think from the 80s. And it was basically just a repaint of He-Man with black hair, or it might have been brown hair, I think it was brown hair. But he also had a torso piece that was similar to Zodak. And then, of course, reaching into my tickle trunk and pulling in some of the other figures that we can make use of. Here's He-Man. We can bring in Triclops. You're probably thinking to yourself, where are you going with all this? I'm going to bring in Triclops. And we don't really technically need Zodak, but if you had still a Zodak, you would have wanted to paint this. But essentially, you could take the top half. This is buying into then the idea that these are mix and matchable components. You can go ahead and take the headpiece off, and you can go ahead and remove the arms. Seth, I knew you'd be good for something. Go ahead and remove everything, so you're basically just left with this. Go ahead and take the lower half of Triclops, because we basically need this dark coloring right here. You can snap that into place like that. I guess you technically could take his arms as well, but we might as well make use of He-Man. We're going to go ahead and pop his arms off. It's almost like craft time here. Go ahead and remove his head from the ball joint. And then we're going to kind of craft together a makeshift Wondar. It's not going to be 100% correct because Seth Rollins' body is a bit on the paler side. And then we can go ahead and just pop He-Man's head in place. This is basically, minus, of course, the fact that the torso doesn't quite line up properly. You could, of course, take this all off, but just quickly rushing through it so I could show you guys. It's sort of essentially, this is what Wondar would have looked like. And again, the hair of He-Man would have been, instead of blonde, it would have been brown. I'm sure at some point we're going to be getting ourselves a Wondar exclusive. Probably won't be so much an exclusive, or maybe a convention exclusive. I'm sure at some point Mattel has considered the idea as a nod to the fans of giving us a true Wondar. Okay, let's go ahead and just reverse everything we just finished doing. Pop that off. You know, again, it's fun the fact that you can remove these components. Although for me, I'm never going to be doing this. It's more so, I feel, marketing than anything else. Go ahead and just pop Rollins' head back into place. Let's grab his lower half. Snap that in. And we'll go ahead and grab his arms. I mean, one also good thing about this line is if you do have a kid brother or a kid sister who likes to grab your toys and be awfully rough with them and ends up inadvertently ripping off the joints, the elbows or the arms, even the lower torso of Seth Rollins, they're pretty easy to snap back in place. And then Seth Rollins is as good as new again. Oh, we leave all the loose body parts all over the place. Don't worry, I'll go back and clean that up. Let's have a look at the articulation on Seth Rollins. His head rotates all the way around, although I did say it gets a little on the hung-up side just by the fact that his hair sticks down, and yeah, even his beard. I mean, honestly, you probably wouldn't be doing this with figures anyways. I only do it for the sake of this review to show you to the extent of what these joints will allow you doing. But I think most people with common sense would probably just rotate the head back and forth like this. Up, down, and you can also move it back and forth this way as well. As for the arms, not only can you rotate them all the way around, but you can also hinge them outward as well. And through doing this, if you inadvertently pop the arms out of their sockets, you saw how easy it was. In fact, see? You can do that right easily and just pop it back into place. Bend at the elbows. He also has the rotation in the forearm. And you can also rotate the hands all the way around and hinge those back and forth. Waist swivels. The legs split out. You can bring the legs also forward and back like this. Bend at the knee. Rotate the lower leg. He does have that bend in the knee, although because he does have the knee pad over top of it, it does limit a little bit of being able to bend that further forward or further back. He does have the rotation in the boot. You can rotate those all the way around. And you can also hinge his feet back and forth and ankle pivot them too. Nice looking figure. I like Seth Rollins in the WWE, though again, truthfully, I don't watch as much WWE as I used to. But I don't think he's my favorite from this set. The set of 4 figures, of course, we had to look at. May have said this in the review of Mr. T, and I'll say it again here. These figures I found online, and the price that they're asking for some of these figures is a bit ludicrous. Let's just get everyone here. Bring in Mr. Wyatt as well. I don't know if I'd necessarily say that all Master Universe figure fans would also be WWE figure fans and vice versa. So this is sort of a niche of a niche. If you're a fan of both, then yes, you're probably going to be picking these figures up. Can't find them locally here in Canada. Same story goes for the Master Universe Origins figures. But at least I found these online at a good enough price point that I think it warranted me picking them up and at least having a look at it. These are the first figures that I've ever had a look at for the Masters of the WWE Universe. But I could see, based on how much fun I've actually had having a look at these in their own separate designated reviews, I probably could see myself maybe trying to track down the waves that came out before these ones, which unfortunately would mean having to go online, which would unfortunately have to mean as well probably paying a little bit more than I really wanted to in the beginning. Oh, and in case you were wondering, He-Man is as good as new, Triclops is as good as new, and, well, Zodak just showed up to say hello. The purpose of that was to show you the fact that you could, technically, if you had all those figures, build yourself a Wondar short of you actually having to paint He-Man's hair brown. But it was also to show you that this line, one of the selling traits of it is that you can mix and match the limbs. Everything on this figure basically can be detached and reattached to another figure, and you can really build your very own master. Although I don't think anybody really is doing that. I have yet to really do it, just short of whatever I show you guys in these reviews. I never say to myself, oh gee, I wonder if Skeletor would look really cool with Roboto's arms. I'm going to be displaying it with him. But, you know, if that's something that they want to incorporate as a gimmick for the figure, then that being the case, why not? Speaking of gimmicks, of course, we got the gimmick of WWE combining with the Masters of the Universe to give us this strange and yet still satisfying amalgamation. When you do look at these figures, you could imagine that, yes, they would inhabit the world of Eternia, and yet there's still something just not quite right about them. The realistic face on Rollins, for example, may not work necessarily to being displayed with He-Man, but at least proportionately they're of that same size and scale. My favorite figure from this line, I think it's still Mr. T. Mr. T, probably Bray Wyatt, and right after that, Jake the Snake Roberts. I kind of called that right from the beginning. Seth Rollins, to no fault of his own, is a nice-looking figure, but he's just not my favorite of the four. If I would probably label any one of them as a peg warmer, which is ironic me saying that, because even finding them in local stores, doesn't happen. Doesn't happen at all. I would imagine Seth Rollins would probably be the peg warmer. Sorry, Seth. I'm this poor guy over the course of these 4 reviews, and I'm not really the most apologetic about it either. What do you guys think of this line? And certainly for your video question, let me know, of the 4 figures from the Masters of the WWE Universe, which one is your personal favorite? I certainly would say awarded as a gimmick. Best gimmick from this line would definitely have to go to Jake the Snake. The fact that you could detach his armor, remove even his face. You could remove the man's face to reveal a snake underneath. You got to get points to that. But what's your favorite figure of the 4 Masters of the WWE Universe figures that we had a look at in this review? Also, if you are new to this channel, enjoying all the content we've been doing over the last little while, I like to say we, but it's usually just me. Producer Tony takes some of the credit, but I really think there's a lot. That's already too much credit than what he deserves. But certainly, if you are enjoying this content, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button down below, that you're turning the bell notification on, because that's your way of getting those friendly reminders from YouTube. Those apparently that aren't clicking the bell notification sometimes have said that they don't know right away when new videos are popping up onto this channel. I don't really understand the logic behind that. If you certainly would subscribe to someone's channel, you'd like to think that that would mean, hey, I don't know, just throwing it out there. I would like to kind of know when someone's posting new video content. But no, you got to do one extra little bit thing. Maybe next year they're going to have you submit over an audio clip of you singing from your favorite song. I don't know. But in the meantime, make sure you hit that bell notification. Make sure you come back to this channel with peepers peeled, because there's definitely going to be a lot more videos coming your way. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.